Do you have trouble getting your kids to do their chores? If you don't, then you might want to move on to something else on YouTube. There's a lot of fun things out there. But if you do, keep listening and we'll go through some ideas about how to get your kids to do their chores. One of the ways I like to approach this is to set up what I call a job card. So a job card really helps kids organize the project. And a lot of kids have special trouble with the organizational piece of chores. So those would be kids with ADHD or on the high functioning end of the autism spectrum, and a lot of other kids too who just don't know how to approach their work, or they get overwhelmed or anxious, or just kind of non-compliant when they're faced with what seems to them to be a big project. So a job card would have on it the steps of the chore. So for instance, let's say you wanted your child to clean the room, their own bedroom for instance, and you might set up a job card, like an index card for instance, or a piece of paper with the components of the task on it. Now this basic idea uses the concept of task analysis, and that means you're just breaking down the project into small steps. So it's not just please go clean your room, it's here's a job card of the steps you need to take to clean your room. And it might include things on it like you pick the dirty laundry up off the floor and you put it in the laundry basket, and you empty your trash, and you take the things out from under your bed that you've hidden there for the past 2 weeks, and maybe you dust your bookshelves, and then after you do all that you vacuum your floor. You know, it just depends on your child and your child's room and what their capabilities are at this stage. Like maybe if they're really young, maybe they don't do the vacuuming and they just pick up their toys. But you outline the different steps on the job card. Now for younger children can even do this, even kids who can't read, because you could use little pictures instead of words. So you could give a younger child a card that has 2 or 3 pictures on it of what you want them to do, like maybe of the laundry basket, or a picture of the Legos that need to get picked up. And you can use clip art, or you can use photos that you've taken yourself and put onto a piece of paper that shows what it is they're supposed to do. So basically the steps that they're supposed to take are on the job card. Then you can also add some other steps to it. So for instance, if you're trying to help with motivation for a child to complete a chore and you're having a lot of trouble getting them to do it, you might want to add some small prize or reward that's at the end of the job card list. So they can see right there what it is. So if they get to pick out a prize from a prize bucket, or they get to earn some computer time, or they get to earn some one-on-one time with mom or dad at the end, that's listed at the end of the job card, so that they know kind of what's in it for them. And you can set it up though that you have to check it off after they've done it before they earn the prize. So it's basically you complete these steps, you get checked off by a parent that those steps have all been completed to your level of satisfaction, and then they can earn their prize. And remember, for kids who haven't been good at doing chores in the past, we often want to use some kind of shaping. That means the first time they're doing it more independently or on the new system, you might not insist that every step be perfectly completed. But if it's a lot better than it ever used to be, you might still want to give them their prize, but gradually kind of up the ante of what they need to do in order to earn the prize. Now there's another way that you can do this that works for kids who just otherwise cannot focus, and it's called job card grounding, which is basically, it might be a situation where you say, just temporarily until this task is done, you can't do any of your other fun activities that you might normally do. So if kids might normally play with a friend, or watch TV, or play on the computer, or play a video game, or play with their Legos. Now it works best if it's things that you can realistically control their access to. You say, you can't do any of your normal things until the job's done. And as soon as the job is done, you can go back to your usual activities. So it's, generally speaking, a very short-term grounding. In general, I'm not in favor of long-term groundings, so they tend to be ineffective and just sort of breed resentment. So, but this is just something very short-term, so if the task is something that takes them 10 or 15 minutes, They're only restricted from accessing their favorite activities for 10 to 15 minutes if they start right away. Of course, not all kids will do that, but that's the idea. You can also build in some other steps that are good for kids who have trouble with compliance. So for kids who are very independent-minded, they don't like to comply, they don't like other people to tell them what to do, or say for kids on the autism spectrum who have very set ideas about what's an okay and preferred way to spend one's time, and doing chores isn't one of them, you might give them some choices. So maybe you've got 2 job cards, and one might be cleaning the bathroom and one is vacuuming the family room. And again, you have each one outlined of the different steps, and then you say, I'd like you to do one of these, please. And they get some choice. So giving choice is very helpful for kids who are oppositional and tend not to want to do what they've been told to do. So when they at least experience some level of control, or you can give them choice in a different manner. So for instance, you might say, I need you to do this one chore, and again, it's outlined with all the specific steps on the job card, but you can either choose to do it before dinner or after dinner. Or you might, if you are going to offer them a reward, maybe you've discussed with them ahead of time, you know, what are the reward choices. So maybe you could either earn a prize from a prize box, or you can earn an extra 10 minutes of video game time, or you can earn 10 minutes with mom and dad, and then have them pick which one do you want to get today. So again, they have some choice, because maybe that day they're in the mood for one of the rewards and not for the other. So basically, this kind of strategy is especially helpful for any kids who have executive functioning problems. So, you know, again, when you have kids like with ADHD or on the high functioning end of the autism spectrum, they really have a hard time organizing tasks. You know, things like, you know, going and cleaning your room can seem really overwhelming and big, and they don't really know what they're supposed to do, or they do one piece of it and they think it's fine, or they just get distracted by something else that comes along, like, ooh, that's bright and shiny, so I'm going to go do that. Or, you know, a classic example is kids who go in to clean their room, and while they're cleaning the room, they discover some fun thing that's in there that, you know, completely distracts them and derails the project of getting it done. But the job card can help increase their focus, and, you know, you might need to do some prompts. So for instance, for kids who really get easily derailed, you might be monitoring them as they go along on their steps. You could even set up time guidelines for how long each step might take, or just every few minutes you might just be going in and checking. Say, oh, what step are you on now? You know, have you moved along to step 2 yet? And give them some encouragement and praise for accomplishing it. Now, and something I just also like to throw out there, if your kids are good at doing chores, but they just grumble and complain and everything a lot about it, I think a good approach to that is really just ignore the complaining and grumbling. Focus on the productive activity. So let's say they get their room clean, but they grumbled and complained and whined about it. I just ignore all of that. Focus on the job that's been done, give a lot of praise that the job has been done, and then just keep watching and waiting for the come along, likely, someday when they're not complaining about it. You know, they just do it. They surprise you, but instead of just not commenting on that, because that's what you've expected all along, so you don't bother to praise it, really make a big deal about that, about how much it meant to you that there wasn't any complaining. So you reward the positives. You might even, if you don't normally give any kind of prize or reward or allowance or anything for doing chores, you might even just spontaneously give them a little something to say, boy, you not only did your chore today, but you did it without complaining, and that really meant a lot to me, so I'm going to give you this extra, whatever it is, because of how much I like that. And again, you don't have to do that every time, but if you do that a few times whenever, you know, you get the job done without the complaining, that will help. But I think it's actually really natural to grumble and complain about doing chores. I mean, most of us do that, right? You know, we might grumble and complain about going to work, or we might grumble and complain about, oh, I've got to clean the bathroom. You know, we usually don't say, oh man, I can't wait to go clean the bathroom, and it's just going to be the best time of my day. It would be like, oh, I've got to do the chores today before I can have any fun. I wish I, you know, was just independently wealthy and somebody else would do all those things for me. you know, it's a pretty natural process, and so what I think you want to do as a parent is not take that personally if there's complaining about it, and just recognize that we often feel that way about having to do a slightly unpleasant task. So my name is Barbara Lester. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I've been working with children and teens for about 30 years. Please let me know how this works for you, and subscribe to my channel if you're interested in other tips like this. Thanks for stopping by.